Peace, peace, Black people. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Welcome to your Mima's World, the Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your Mima, your Jelly Moose in residence. And I am glad to be Black in the land of the living once again. It has been about a week that I have come on and done anything. It's been a horrible week for me. It's been a trying week. It's been a week of discovery and a week of craziness. So you can tell by the title where it says quitting an unethical job. And that is what I did. I will be back next week with my lunchtime story time because I'll have a lot of time on my hand and some other things. So I quit my unethical job. I hadn't had it long, it was only about 4 weeks. And for those of you who don't know me, and most of you don't, I am notorious for job hopping. I have been doing this since I was terminated from a job back in 2010 that I had been on for 20 years. And I was terminated from that job because I was too Black. I would not conform. I would not kiss ass. I would not tap dance. And they had to get rid of my Black behind. I guess you could say that I had a Black job and I was acting too Black. So from 2010 up until now to 2024, so 14 years, I have truly had probably about 50 jobs. Um, it started with me job hopping because my mother got sick and I was her caregiver. And whenever she got really ill, I would leave work and they would fire me or I would have to quit. Some jobs I was fired from and some I quit. But I did those things because I had to look after my mom, and I don't feel any embarrassment or any shame or anything of that nature. My mom transitioned and joined the Ancestors in 2018, and I'm still finding myself um, job hopping because of what I know that I am and know what I'm supposed to be doing. Um, Working at a corporate 9 to 5 doesn't sit well in my spirit. So in 2011, no, I went back to work after I was fired in 2010. I went back to work in 2012 because at that time, Obama was president and um, he had extended unemployment. And so I was able to be off for 2 years. Usually, unemployment, you have to be off, I think, 6 months and then your unemployment end, but I was off for 2 years. So I didn't really go back to work until around 2013, 2014. And I would find these jobs and I couldn't function. I could not. It was just the experiences were horrible. I started to recognize that they were plantations even before I really started to study Black history. I started to recognize that these were plantational jobs, that um, they weren't good for my spirit, they weren't good for my health. Um, it took away from me doing what I was supposed to do. Now, at that time, again, my mom was sick, and so I would take whatever time I needed, you know, on my authority and make sure that she was okay. When she passed in 2018, again, I was still um, jumping from job to job because I still didn't have that sense of I'm supposed to be there, and I don't care what the job was. It could have been the easiest job in the world. But at that time, the reason I was jumping from job to job was because I had become a professional storyteller. People were hiring me and paying me very well to come and tell historical stories. And so I would jump from job to job, but I never left a job because the company was unethical. It was simply because I was getting more jobs as a storyteller, and so I didn't need the job. A lot of companies were really good companies. I just didn't feel comfortable there. It didn't sit with my spirit. I started. So I only really have to work for corporate in the summertime from like June till end of September. I have to find something to do. And I have found, again, really good jobs where the company has been wonderful. The pay was good, the people were nice, uh, sometimes, but it wasn't to the point where I'm like, oh, I got to quit this job. I can't stay here any longer. I've never had a job where I've had to quit because the job was just so unethical until now. So let me give you the background of what I did for this company. And I won't name the company. And when I explain to you what I did, you probably already know who it is. And I'll tell you who is not because I don't want you to think it's that company who has a reputable character and very ethical. So I'll tell you who it's not, but I won't tell you who it is. All right. So my school classes ended on May 19th. That means I have a couple of weeks of income that are still coming in from pay from those classes. But by June 1st, I got to find something. And I'm going on interviews after interviews after interviews, and nobody is calling me. So I get an interview for a job, and the money was great. Um, the location was amazing. Uh, it was just was the hours were great. It wasn't stressful. And the lady hired me on the spot. When I went in, she said, I'm not going to even interview anybody else. I just love your personality and I think you'd be a great fit. And she took all my information. She says, we're going to do a background check and blah, 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 drug test, all of that. And you'll start in a week. And I'm like, okay, great. Boom. So I got the job. So I'm excited. So she calls me the Thursday before I was supposed to start that Monday. And she calls me at like 6 o'clock in the evening. And she was like, um, it's taken me all day to get up the courage to call you. She said, I am so sorry. She said, I have cried. She said, but they pulled the position. The position is no longer available. They're combining some positions. And so this position that I offered you is not available. And she was so upset about not being able to offer me the job. And I was like, I understand. I said, it's not your fault. And inside, I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Because I only have like a week left of pay and rent's coming up. What am I going to do? So um, I had put in an application for this job that I didn't really want because I had heard such horrible stories about the company, but they kept sending me emails for me to come in for an interview, and I didn't have anything else. And so I went in for the interview, or they did an interview over Zoom, hired me on the spot, and I was going to start. And this job didn't do any drug tests, they didn't do any background checks. I'm like, okay, well, that tells you something. So I went in and Zoom interview. They hired me on the spot, and I started the following Monday. A week of training. The class started out with, and it's in a call center, so you can imagine, uh, call center plantation. The class started out with, I think, 8 of us, and by the next day, not even the end of the week, the next day there were three left, me and two other girls. And So we went through the class and the training, and then the following Monday we would go to our teams, and it's a work from home job. So I'm thinking, well, it can't be that bad because it's work from home. And I was like, the hours were horrible, 1 to 10. That means my whole day was spent in front of my computer in my living room. But again, it was work from home. So I was thinking, okay, I can save on gas. I don't have to dress up. I can sit in my pajamas or my gowns or whatever and do this job. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. It cannot freaking be that bad. I'm working from home. It cannot be that bad. So this is what the job is. The job is selling medical alert devices to people. Now, that is not the unethical part because I believe that everybody, especially if you are a senior and you live by yourself, or even if you live by yourself and you are young, you need a medical alert device. Especially again, if you go out by yourself and you are a woman, you need this device. How many times is it hard for us to find out? Let me stop selling this. Never mind. You need this device. I went right into selling mode. You need this device. Okay. So that's not the unethical part. So my second day on the phone, I got like 5 sales, which was really good for one day. And then as the week went on, I would get maybe 1, 2, or 3 sales a day. And as the weeks would go on, I got less and less sales. I got a lot of calls, but less sales. So when they explained to me, and they have it on their website, the way that they get their calls is they claim to have bought disconnected phone numbers. And when people dial those numbers, it routes them to this particular company. And that's what I believe because that's what they told me. And that's what's on their website. So the weeks go on, and I'm getting all of these calls from people who claim they were trying to call their bank, social security office, their home security system, to check on their EBT card, um, insurance company, just about everything except for our company. And so I'm trying to figure out how are they buying these numbers when these numbers are still in existence? So these banks haven't changed their numbers. These insurance companies haven't changed their numbers. The Social Security office hasn't changed its number. And I was trying to figure out, I don't understand how this is happening. So last week, I think Monday, each day I was taking up to 40 and 50 calls because I got tired of people calling, and I would start to talk to them about this device, and they would tell me, I wasn't calling you. I was calling my bank to activate my card. Can you put me back to my bank? I can't because we're not affiliated with your bank. And so I was giving them a directory assistant number to get the number for their bank, which means they were probably going to give them the same number that they dialed already. So this is the unethical part. They haven't bought numbers. They may have bought some, but the bulk of the calls that come into the call center, they have hired, and I don't know, and this is allegedly, but it seems to me they have hired a third party company. And I looked online and someone said it is a company in India. I don't know how true that is. But it seems that they have hired a third party company that has the capability of rerouting and intercepting calls at random. So if someone is calling their bank, this device or this company can intercept that call and route it to the company selling the medical alert. When the person comes on the line, it doesn't say, thank you for calling blah, blah, blah bank. It just says, thank you for calling. Congratulations. You have received a chance to, or you have received a free a medical alert device. Stay on the line or press one if you want to hear more about it, or stay on the line and the next representative will help you. Either way, whether you press one or stay on the line, it's going to still route you to this company. So if you're calling, say, Bank of Zimbabwe, and the person comes on the line and doesn't say, thank you for calling Bank of Zimbabwe, today you have a chance to win or you have an offering for a free um, medical alert bracelet or whatever. Stay on the line or press one. If not, we'll transfer you to Bank of Zimbabwe. Now, I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that that's actually the bank name. I don't want to say any of the bank names because they are some big time banks. And when they find out what this company is doing, I hope they sue them. So then when I come on the line, I actually say the company's name. Thank you for calling, blah, 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 blah. Congratulations. So the person on the line still thinks I'm affiliated with the Bank of Zimbabwe because that's who they called. That's the unethical part. And then the company was expectations were for us, the sales reps, to keep these people on the phone for at least 20 minutes trying to sell them something that they never asked for. Now, the most unethical part of the calls that they reroute and intercept are the ones to the EBT office, to Social Security, to Social Security, to check on the check on their EBT cards. These people are calling to check the status of their funds on their EBT card. Now, if I am getting food stamps, what makes you think I have an extra $50 a month to send to you for a medical alert device? But we were tasked to keep these people on the line for 20 minutes, diverting them from calling to get the balance on their EBT card. And they may have been standing in a freaking grocery store trying to get food, but want to check their balance first. And I'm on the phone with them because their call has been routed to me, trying to convince them to take whatever money they have left over at the end of the month, not even put it toward food, but put it toward this medical alert necklace, this device for $50 a month, and try to sell that to you. Elderly people, 90 something years old, who get Social Security, and all they get is $1,000 a month total, and they have to pay all of their bills out of that $1,000 a month. You're expecting me to stay on the phone for 20 minutes and convince these elderly people to buy this medical alert device for $50 a month. People calling Social Security to try to get their disability benefits, and it gets routed to me. And you expect me to stay on the phone for 20 minutes and convince this person who is trying to apply for disability insurance to convince them to spend $50 a month when they don't even have anything coming in a month on this medical alert device. I would get physically ill every time I signed on to my computer. And it got to the point where the only people I would talk to it about was people who showed genuine interest. I would probe to see if they were retired and they retired from being a doctor or an attorney or working for the government, then their benefits were probably pretty good. Their retirement benefits were probably pretty good, and they may be able to afford this. But people that were calling in and saying they were on disability, they were unemployed, they were on food stamps, um, you know, I wouldn't even bother to sell to them. I wouldn't even talk about it. I would just tell them, I hope your situation turns around. And if it does, and you become financially able to afford it, give us a call back. We'll be here. I got dinged. I kept getting dinged. They kept listening to my calls and they kept saying, you're not selling it. You're not keeping them on the line. You're giving them the number that they asked for in the first 5 minutes of the conversation or this, that, and the other. So they kept listening to my calls and they kept calling me in meetings and telling me this, that, and the other. And I had enough. And it was unethical and I couldn't do it anymore because I just kept thinking about my elders, my aunties and my uncles, and how I would feel if somebody convinced them to buy this piece of equipment that they could not afford. They may have needed it, but they could not afford it. Hell, you need food, but sometimes you freaking can't afford it. Especially when I know that there are devices out there that do the same thing as this company's that cost a lot less than this one does. And I wanted so badly to tell them, hey, call blah 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 because it's cheaper and it's the same thing. A lot of times they would tell me, well, Medicaid or Medicare should cover this. I'm like, they may. People were calling Medicare, Medicaid, and getting me and cursing me out because that's not the number that they dialed. And this company has a whole lot of people who have no morals, who are willing to sell their soul and sell their morality for $5 because that's what we got per sale. You got your base rate, which was nothing, $15 an hour, and then you got $5 per sale. And so they're pushing the sale because they're pushing that $5 that they would give you. And on top of you getting a commission, your supervisor got a commission off of everybody on her team for every sale that they made. She got a commission. So, of course, she's in your ear pushing it, pushing it, pushing it so that she can get her commission and her bonus. So on Friday, I had enough. On Thursday, I was late going in on Thursday because I had an interview somewhere else. And I was late going in on Thursday. And when I got there, uh, my supervisor pulled me in a meeting because the day before I had like 60 calls and one sale. And so my KPIs, my sale to phone call ratio was extremely low. So she pulled me in a meeting on Thursday and kind of chewed me out because of the number of phone calls I was getting. And of course, they were listening to my calls, and I wasn't selling to people who didn't want it. And she made an effort to say she basically said this company does not care why these people are calling. Your job is to sell them this device. And so I asked her. I said, "Well, I'm not feeling well. Can I go ahead and take the day off?" And she said, yeah, take the day off and come back tomorrow ready to go and be regrouped because you're not going to mess up me being able to feed my children. So basically, she was saying to me, I don't care how unethical this job is or how unethical you think it feeds my family. And so I don't care. You're going to do your job. And so I said, okay. And so Friday, I typed up a email to her and I didn't send it. I put it in schedule. And then I clocked in at 1 o'clock, and I was just going through the script. No matter how many times they said they didn't want it, I would use whatever rebuttal they had typed out. We had we had like maybe 10 rebuttals for depending on what the person said, the reason why they didn't want it. 5 of those rebuttals were, "That's you're not the company that I was looking for." And we were to tell them, I understand, you didn't think you would be calling me to talk about a medical alert decision today and blah, 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 blah. Or I understand, but thankfully you reached me here at blah, 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 blah. There were 5 rebuttals for that because they knew that these calls that were coming in, they weren't looking for this. If they weren't intercepting calls, they would have no calls. Nobody called in to this company at all. Nobody. If the calls were not intercepted, they would have no calls. And so on Friday, I clocked in at 1 o'clock, went on my first break at 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, we have a group chat on the screen, a team chat. And so I chatted a message in team. It's been a nice working for with you people, but I can't do this anymore. And if you can do this job, this unethical job, scamming elderly people out of their hard earned money that they don't even have now in retirement, and lay your head down at night and sleep peacefully, then shame on you. I pray it doesn't come back on you. And so I scheduled my email to my supervisor to go out um, at my lunchtime. But I left at 3:15 and I clocked out and I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. Number one of the reasons I couldn't do it well, a lot of reasons, but the ancestors had already told me they weren't going to bless it. So all the sales that I got, and I got in the 3 weeks that I actually worked on the phone, I got about 16 sales. And all 16 of my sales were from people that I did not have to convince to buy it. There were people who had the money to buy it. There were no "I can't afford it" rebuttals that I had to use. I presented it to them. They said, "That sounds good. How do I sign up for it?" All 16 of my sales. Any other thing that I had to convince someone who didn't have the money, who was elderly, who was on disability, who was on food stamps, the ancestors were not going to bless me getting a sale because it was unethical. And I just kept thinking about my aunties and my uncles, and if somebody was doing that to them, how I would feel. And my ancestors kept putting that in my ear. They kept saying, "How would you feel?" My mother kept saying, "How would you feel if somebody did that to your aunt, blah blah blah, or your uncle, blah blah blah? How would you feel if they had done that to me when I was in the?" And there were so many people that would call my mom's house and try to scam her out of her money. And my mom would cuss them out, as was cussed out many times. My mother would cuss them out and tell them to get off her phone. So I quit on Friday. And again, I've never quit a job because the company was unethical, and I've never quit a job and not have something lined up to go to the next job. I have nothing lined up. I have nothing. I have nothing. Um, I lie. I don't have any corporate jobs lined up. But my ancestors kept telling me, "What do you have that we've given you to do?" So I authored my first book last year in February, and I ordered some books, and there was some delay in me getting my second shipment of books. So, Lord, the ancestors' timing is just impeccable. So Tuesday of last week, I got my shipment of books. Now, I'm thinking, because I'm new to this thing of writing books and publishing books and getting them out there. So I'm thinking that I had to wait for my books to come before I could put it on any platforms. That's what I'm thinking. That's what's in my head. And the reason I didn't really put any effort into doing it or even, researching it was because I had a job. I had money coming in and I didn't really have to think about making money off of my books. I still wanted to get the book out there because I want people to read it because it's a good book and I'm going to, put it on here on one of my episodes. But I got my shipment of books. And so Friday, after I logged off for the last time from this horrible company, um, I started autographing my books so that when I sell them, they'll already be autographed and ready to sell. And then I went on Amazon and I looked to see how I could get my book published on Amazon. And when I started doing it, because I felt like it was just hard for me. I kept asking people, "How do I get my book on Amazon?" And it was just go to blah 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 and blah 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 blah. And I was like, if it was just do this, I would have just done it. But it wasn't as hard as I made it out to be. And once I got in there and started playing around with things and figured out how to do it, it was a piece of cake. And so I'm just waiting for them to give me the green light that it's ready to go as an ebook. And then I've put it in to publish it as a hardback book, um, and to sell the actual book, it's physical book. I'm just waiting for them to send me the copy so that I can proof it and then get it on Amazon. And I could have done that last year. I could have done that earlier, but because I was working in corporate, my mind wasn't on doing that. And once I quit this unethical job, my focus was on walking in my calling as a storyteller and making that work for me for income. I know there are a lot of you out there that are working unethical jobs. As African Americans, as descendants of those that were enslaved, ever since we have set foot in this country forcibly, we have worked service jobs. We have worked, and I'm not saying all of us, because there are quite a few of us who do own our own companies, who do work for ourselves, but the majority of us, Black Americans, have Black jobs. And we feel stuck in them. We face racism, we face sexism, we face doing the lowest of the low paying jobs. We face having to work for companies that we know are racist. Um, and we have to do them because we have to pay our bills. I have never had furniture delivered by a white guy. Never. I have a stackable washer and dryer in my apartment, and it didn't come with the apartment. I have to rent it from um, another company. And when it was delivered to me, it was a black guy, probably in his late 50s, that brought this stackable washer and dryer up my stairs by himself. And I asked him, I said, "Are you delivering all of these washer and dryers by yourself?" And he said, "Yeah." I've never had black people to deliver furniture. When my furniture was delivered, it was delivered by two black men. Now, when my internet was installed, it was installed by a young white boy. He had to do nothing. Go outside and do something to the meter, come back in and plug it up. That was it. But the service jobs, a lot of the service jobs, like fast food, are mostly done by black people. And not saying that these jobs are unethical. They're not. They're selling food. They're unethical in a way that they are selling cheap food, unhealthy food to uh, black people. But the job itself is not unethical. I can't tell anybody what to do for their household. It's unfortunate. We have to have a job to live. We have to have a job to feed our children. We have to have a job to pay our bills. And it seems like Black America, we are simply living to work and working to live. And we don't have time to enjoy our children, to enjoy our grandchildren, to enjoy life. Because I spoke to so many Black people on the phone who said that they were retired, but they got a little part time job. Well, you're not retired. So it's gotten to the point now that we can't even retire without having a part-time job. We can't, they can. Most of the white people that I talk to that say they retire, oh, I've been retired for 10, 15 years. So what do you do for fun? Oh, I travel, I play golf, I do this, I blah, 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 you know? Very few black people that I talked to that said they were retired that didn't say that they were working a part-time job. So I quit my unethical job and now I am focused on selling my books, writing another book, starting to write another book, doing more storytelling, doing more historical interpretations. And the crazy thing is, when I quit my job, I had a conversation with the ancestors, and uh, they were telling me, they were reminding me of all the things that I had done while I was working a corporate job and how much more I can do not working a corporate job. I was a playwright. I have written several plays that were staged. I have written plays that were staged to sold out crowds. I have not written a play in 7 years. Since my mom passed, I haven't written a play in over 7 years. I, have done storytelling for NASA. I have performed for NASA. My historical interpretations caught the eye of a television show, um, Ghost Hunters, where they called me to be a consultant on one of their episodes. And I did. Again, I have authored a book. I have won awards for voiceover for independent film. I've starred in 7 independent films. I have done over 25 theatrical performances. I have been the first Black woman to have a solo show in a historical place that has never had that done before. Why am I working these unethical corporate jobs when I know what my path is and know what I'm supposed to be doing? Look, I'm gonna get out of here because I've been on here for 40 something minutes, and I just came to vent and to give people out there who have hope, and that are to give them hope, that are working in these unethical jobs and working in jobs that they're not supposed to be. If it doesn't sit well in your spirit, if you get physically ill or emotionally ill every time you clock in, that job is not for you. Go back and listen to the story of Pies from Nowhere, where Georgia Gilmore literally left working for white people to work for herself in the 50s. This black woman did that. And here it is, 2024, and a lot of us are so afraid to step out on the strength of our ancestors. Our ancestors would flee the plantation, would self liberate themselves and not know where they were going, didn't have a clue where they were going. They just knew they couldn't stay on that plantation anymore. And that was me on Friday. I don't have a clue. Uh, I didn't have a clue on Friday of where I was going. I just knew that I could no longer be on that plantation anymore. So, yeah. All right, that's my time. I'm going to get out of here. You know the drill. Love yourself, love each other, give yourself some grace, give each other grace, stay healthy, stay safe, stay cool. The heat is still rolling on. And basically, really stay healthy. I understand that there is a new COVID strand that is out there and it is wreaking havoc once again. So stay masked up, um, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay black. Until next time, peace.